my dear friends. This is the ASMR Nerd, and tonight we find ourselves in Bruma, a city in northern Cyrodiil, on the continent of Tamriel. It is a quiet and clear and luminous night out. My favorite kind of night for a walk and perhaps to read. So tonight we shall do just that. I would like to explore tonight the Cathedral of St Martin, which is the structure that you see before you. It is an imperial place of worship dedicated to honoring the 9 divines and the memory of St. Martin, who was a great martyr who sacrificed himself to save the world from the forces of evil during the Oblivion crisis. It's a beautiful structure, resplendent, ancient, and well worth taking a look inside, I think. It's open all hours of the day or night, so let's head on in. The inside of the Cathedral of St. Martin is immense, with these soaring, vaulted ceilings and all manner of ornate stonework and glass work. The leaded glass panes that surround us depict aspects of the divines, anthropomorphized versions of these ultimately unknowable divine entities, the likes of Mara and Stendar, Zenithar and Dibella, and of course Akatosh, the great dragon lord of time. It must have taken many people a very long time to construct such a beautiful and enduring monument. I'd like to explore some other parts of the cathedral, though, not just the main hall. I believe that we might find some literature of interest down in the Undercroft. Let's take a look. The Undercroft at the Cathedral of St Martin is not typically open to the public because it's where many relics and sacred remains are kept. But we are not any ordinary member of the public, of course. Here we see a shrine to Zenithar, along with some ritual items. And arrayed throughout the Undercroft are the interred remains of various saints and martyrs, people who have given their lives to the worship of the divines. And of course, at the far end, in the place of honor, the remains of Saint Martin himself, or so the story goes. There are those who will tell you that there are no mortal remains of Saint Martin. They were consumed when he transformed himself into the avatar of Akatosh to combat Mehrunes Dagon during the Oblivion crisis and save the Imperial City. In fact, there are many such stories in Tamriel that change depending on who you ask. And the book that we have in front of us here concerns some of the oldest and most fundamental tales of creation. And just like the tale of St. Martin, it's very important to remember that the words contained herein are merely an interpretation of one author writing from a certain perspective at a given time. There are as many such interpretations and perspectives as there are cultures and races and authors in Nirn. And the absolute truth of it is unknown and perhaps unknowable. There are some similarities amongst these various creation stories, some things that seem to remain constant. But all such records are necessarily imperfect, subjective, and influenced by the opinions of the author. Moreover, these stories are highly simplified. In fact, many of them are written in a context that mortal minds can comprehend through use of metaphor and other such simplifications. Bearing all that in mind, let's read the children's Anuad. a children's Anuad, the Anuad paraphrased. And do not let the apparent simplicity of the words contained herein fool you. They belie the deep and unknowable complexity of the creation of this reality. The first ones were brothers, Anu and Padome. They came into the void, and time began. As Anu and Padome wandered the void, the interplay of light and darkness created Nur. Both Anu and Padome were amazed and delighted with her appearance, but she loved Anu, and Padome retreated from them in bitterness. Nur became pregnant, but before she gave birth, Padome returned, professing his love for Nur. She told him that she loved only Anu, and Padome beat her in rage. Anu returned, fought Padome, and cast him outside time. Nur gave birth to creation, but died from her injuries soon after. Anu, grieving, hid himself in the sun and slept. Meanwhile, life sprang up on the 12 worlds of creation and flourished. After many ages, Padome was able to return to time. He saw creation and hated it. He swung his sword, shattering the 12 worlds in their alignment. Anu awoke and fought Padome again. The long and furious battle ended with Anu, the victor. He cast aside the body of his brother, who he believed was dead, and attempted to save creation by forming the remnants of the 12 worlds into one, Nirn, the world of Tamriel. As he was doing so, Padome struck him through the chest with one last blow. Anu grappled with his brother and pulled them both outside of time forever. The blood of Padome became the Daedra. The blood of Anu became the stars. The mingled blood of both became the Aedra, hence their capacity for good and evil, and their greater affinity for earthly affairs than the Daedra, who have no connection to creation. On the world of Nirn, all was chaos. The only survivors of the 12 worlds of creation were the Elnofe and the Hist. The Elnofe are the ancestors of Mer and men. The Hist are the trees of Argonia. Nirn originally was all land, with interspersed seas, but no oceans. A large fragment of the Elnofe world landed on Nirn, relatively intact, and the Elnofe living there were the ancestors of the Mer. These Elnofe fortified their borders from the chaos outside, hid their pocket of calm, and attempted to live on as before. Other Elnofe arrived on Nirn scattered amid the confused jumble of the shattered worlds, wandering and finding each other over the years. Eventually, the wandering Elnofe found the hidden land of old Elnofe, and were amazed and joyful to find their kin living amid the splendor of ages past. The wandering Elnofe expected to be welcomed into the peaceful realm, but the old Elnofe looked on them as degenerates, fallen from their former glory. For whatever reason, war broke out and raged across the whole of Nirn. The old Elnofe retained their ancient power and knowledge, but the wanderers were more numerous and toughened by their long struggle to survive on Nirn. This war reshaped the face of Nirn, sinking much of the land beneath new oceans and leaving the lands as we know them: Tamriel, Akavir, Atmora, and Yokuda. The old Elnofe realm, although ruined, became Tamriel. The remnants of the wanderers were left divided on the other 3 continents. Over many years, the Elnofe of Tamriel became the Mer, or elves, the Dwemer, or the Deep Ones, sometimes called dwarves, the Chimer, or the Changed Ones, who later became the Dunmer. The Dunmer, the Dark or Cursed Ones, also called the Dark Elves, the Bosmer, the Green or Forest Ones, now called the Wood Elves, and the Altmer, the Elder or High Ones, the High Elves. On the other continents, the wandering Elnofe became the Men, the Nords of Atmora, the Redguards of Yokuda, and the Tseasi of Akavir. The Hist were bystanders in the Elnofe War, but most of their realm was destroyed as the war passed over it. A small corner of it survived to become Black Marsh in Tamriel, but most of their realm was sunk beneath the sea. Eventually, men returned to Tamriel. The Nords were the first, colonizing the northern coast of Tamriel before recorded history, led by the legendary Ysgramor. The 13th of his line, King Harald, was the first to appear in written history, and so the mythic era ended. And that, my friends, is the so-called children's Anuad, otherwise known as the annotated Anuad in different places and sources. Its exact origin is unknown, as the author is anonymous, or is after all these years, at least. But it's likely that it was originally of elven origin and has since been adopted by many races of nerd, including the Imperials of the Cyrodiilic Empire. And as I said, it is but one highly simplified interpretation of the creation of our reality and the world in which we live. I hope you enjoyed this reading today. I hope it makes you think about the world we inhabit. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, and I look very forward to having you back here next time. Farewell for now.